Hey guys, Phil with Truck Gun. We're back at you again and we're continuing our look at movement dynamics and how it relates to a defensive encounter. Before, we took a look at our turning movements and single step movements, what we call our short movement package. What I want to look at today though is my pet peeve, and that's shooting on the move. The way everybody teaches shooting on the move. We've all seen shooting on the move. We've all seen how, it's been trained. If you've never seen it done before, the way that a lot of trainers and a lot of folks practice this, it looks a little bit like this. Yeah, okay, so there it was. That was the classic Groucho walk. The way I was originally trained for shooting on the move. So, could be that, could be even worse. How many of you have seen this in a training program? All right, so yeah, there's the crab. We've seen that too. That's that lateral side step. Why do we do that? Why did trainers do that? That was that classical, if you cross your feet, you're gonna fall down and you're gonna die. Here's the problem, who moves like that? Nobody moves like that. Nobody moves like that in a real fight. We do these idiotic things in the range. I tell you what, that cool slow speed Groucho walk, yeah, that's stable. That rolling heel to toe, super awesome. Ground, feet in contact with the ground as much as you possibly can. I've even been trained some crazy stuff where I want to try to time my shots when both feet are on the ground. Maximum contact with the ground. Yeah, it makes sense until someone adds something else into the equation. That someone else who gets a vote in this fight is your threat. It's crazy, idiotic movement, but we've trained that way for so many years, we get into this dogma and believe that's real. That's not the way we move naturally. Last video, we talked so much about natural body movement, and then we come to the range and we shoot on the move, and we talk about some crazy Groucho walk, the combat glide, all the names we assign to it. We walk laterally, we do that crab step, that side step, because if we cross our feet, we're gonna fall over and die. It's all bullshit. I'm here to tell you it's not real. That's not the way movement dynamics work. All right, so we're taking a look at that shooting on the move. You saw me do the ridiculous demonstrations of what are some pet peeves of mine and the way that we train to shoot on the move. Let's talk about real movement dynamics now. Before we do that, I want to discuss distances, how we relate distances in the shooting world. It's a crazy little piece of psychology. If you think about your day-to-day life, what unit of measure do you use in almost everything? The way I teach this in classes is I ask people, hey, tell me about the biggest dimensions of the biggest room in your home. What are the dimensions? And most times I get somebody that tells me, hey, my great room, my living room, it might be 16 by 22. And I look at them and I say, 16 by 22 yards? You've got a huge house, man. What do you do for a living? And they laugh and they're like, no, it's feet. And I say, great, okay. So feet, so we talk about feet. When I talk to cops and I teach cops, most of the vehicle codes, the violations are written in feet. X number of feet you can park from a fire hydrant, or so many feet before you have to use your turn signal. We live in a world of feet. There's two places in the American world, primarily, that we use yards. One is here on the range, the other is good old American football. We have a great sense, if you ever played the game, you've got a great sense of what 10 yards is. But we come out here to the range and we use yards, and I've got my own idea about why that is, why we say yards and not feet, why we measure things like that, even though the rest of our world lives in feet. We do it because it's psychology. Because if I say I got to shoot at 25 yards, that doesn't sound as scary as 75 feet. Holy hell, how can I hit anything 75 feet away? Well, 25 yards sounds better. But on the flip side to that, it creates this weird notion of distance when we really think about fighting in real space, particularly an armed citizen who's going to have that encounter up really, really close and personal. So right now I'm just about 5 yards, okay? I'm 5 yards away from my target. That seems super close. In the shooting world, we think that's really close. Man, I know I can shoot fast. If we apply that to 15 feet, we change that out to our feet now. I'm 15 feet away. That's a longer directional distance than a lot of people have in a room inside their home. That's certainly a lot further away than someone's going to be from you if you're about to be involved in some type of a robbery or you're about to be assaulted. You're going to be much closer. We're going to work here from 5 feet. So I'm going to run a drill here real quick, and I'm going to show you what I think of as a realistic dynamic movement principle. And one thing I'm going to say is, as I teach movement and shooting on the move, I like to say that we need to really strongly consider and start using that decision-making process as to when to shoot on the move and when we really should be working on moving. And we want to increase everything about it. Remember, I use the phrase aggressive and athletic a lot? Aggressive and athletic is something that's going to come. We lower our center of gravity. But I want my movement to be aggressive as well. So that Groucho, that slow walk, yeah, that creates a great platform for me, but that's not real. What I want to focus on is very aggressive, dynamic movement. And I want to push that as fast as I can. You know, another axiom that I hear talked a lot about is I'm only going to move as fast as I can shoot. That's great when we're on a square range and nothing's shooting back. But again, remember, they get a vote. The bad guy gets a vote in this. And that's going to change some dynamics. Only moving as fast as I can shoot, if I'm too far away, that's pretty damn slow. That's not going to work for me. Maybe I should move fast and then worry about shooting. We're going to focus the first part of this demonstration on up close. So good, hard, aggressive, dynamic movement. Not that slow speed Groucho walk, but real aggressive, dynamic movement. I'm going to start from the low ready because I know if I start from the draw, I can cover most of this distance to almost be in contact distance by the time that gun's coming out. So I'm going to start from that high index position, from a good ready position, and I'm just going to drive this. I'm going to shoot it a couple different ways and show you that hard, aggressive movement is very possible. And I'm at 5 yards in, and people say, okay, well, yeah, great, Phil. You can shoot fast, you can be aggressive and get good quality hits at 5 yards and in. That's true in the range, but think about that. I'm 15 feet. So if I'm in my living room, if I'm in any room in my house, that's the furthest I got that I'm going to be moving. If I'm aggressing, if I choose to aggress on a threat, I see a threat coming at me, I've used my situational awareness, I know I'm about to be robbed, I know I'm about to be assaulted, I have a guy with a weapon coming at me, and my best play is to aggress him, I'm not doing it from far away, I'm probably doing it up close. So the principles are going to look something a little bit more like this, again, running from high index. So here, if I do that slow speed Groucho walk, I think we can all pretty much agree that's not a realistic movement pattern. But I want you to pay really close attention to the pace that I'm able to move as I close on this target and shoot, and then we're going to take a look at the hits. So I'm here. That's my movement strategies. That's my pace. Are all my hits great? No, they're not. But I'm able to drive those shots. In that time it took me to cover just a couple of yards, a few feet, but do so aggressively and athletically, I'm able to drive some good upper thoracic hits. That's what's important. My real movement strategy. If I'm up close and if I'm in a contact, this is super, super possible, very common, particularly for your private armed citizen, even a law enforcement officer domestically, where my encounter may start right here. My encounter doesn't start 20 yards away and with a bad guy and his posse coming at me menacingly and I get a chance to see him. My encounter starts here with a sucker punch to the side of the face, or I get stabbed, or I get jumped by 2 or 3 guys. I don't want to let them get in that close, but this is reality. This is where my fight probably starts off. My real fight probably starts off as a fist fight. Maybe it goes to the ground, maybe it doesn't, but at some point I want to disengage from that. I want to gain distance. Distance favors me. So my realistic movement strategies, if I'm up close here, again, I'm not backing out in that nice, cool, controlled, slow walk. I'm probably hauling ass. If I have to shoot right as I'm moving, I'm close and I'm doing it fast. That's real shooting on the move, okay? That's what's appropriate. Looks a little bit like this. So if I'm here and my movement strategy is understanding I'm close and my movement needs to be dynamic, if I'm here and I have to go back, remember I don't like to move back. My best choice would be to go through them. But I'm going to show a little bit of an off-angle movement, kind of that getting off the X, off-linear movement. But I'm going to do so aggressively here. As I back out, that's when my shooting starts to slow down. Maybe I fire those first couple shots. Maybe I get that defensive engagement as I back out aggressively, and then I take off because I'm looking for that position of cover. I change my angle, I turn. I don't want to keep backing up. Worst thing I can do is keep blindly running backwards. That doesn't do me any good. Offline movement, lateral movement. I can do these principles in any direction, but if I'm up close, if I'm in real fight distances where I think I should be shooting on the move, then I need to be moving aggressively and quickly. Okay guys, so that's shooting on the move. My opinions on shooting on the move. It needs to be something, it needs to be realistic. And the decision-making process of whether or not I should move or shoot. I tell folks you should be able to move and shoot at an aggressive, realistic pace. If you're outside of that. So for most folks, I will tell you from experience, in a calm, static training range environment, most people are able to achieve real dynamic movement speeds 7 yards and in, 21 feet and in. under the stress of a fight, probably collapse that down a little bit. What that means is, when we do that shooting on the move training and I do that slow little Groucho walk, why am I moving? That's the most important question you've got to ask yourself. What in this fight is causing me to want to move? Why am I changing my position? Am I in the open and I need to get to cover? Am I in the middle of a field? Again, we discussed how that's a pretty unrealistic scenario, but it's possible. Nothing is impossible. Why am I moving? And if I'm further away than that, am I really doing myself good just to throw lead at a target? I'm not. Listen, hits win fights. Just shooting at something doesn't stop a damn thing. Hits are going to be what wins your fight. And if I'm 10 yards, 15 yards, 20 yards, if I'm further away and I don't have the ability to deliver good, accurate hits on my threat, I probably should consider changing my position. I should look to increase my angle, change my game, and then deliver effective hits. Safety is my #1 priority. But those are the low percentage possibilities. Even up close, I may not have a position where, you know, my threat may be presenting me a small target, because guess what? If that person perceives that I have a firearm or I have a weapon or I'm now a threat to them, remember all those instincts we talk about us doing, the movement principles, seeking out cover, seeking vertical objects, large objects? They're going to do the same thing. My shot may not be as easy. I got a great little cooperative cardboard target standing still for me now. Throw this into simunition, it's the greatest training tool you're ever going to find. Throw this into a simunition situation and you'll find out those movement principles and aggressive, dynamic, angle-changing movement principles are super important until you get a break and you can start using things like cover. But when your adversary is also moving, you may not be able to deliver that shot even up close. So sometimes movement is the key, not shooting on the move. What I get, and what I really encourage you to get away from, is that old-fashioned shooting on the move Groucho. Here's what you hear: the 10-yard to the 5-yard line, firing a couple rounds on the move, okay? That's not what we're looking to do. That's not realistic. I encourage you to train in short, what we call burst movement. So within 15 feet, within 5 yards, in a multitude of directions, angles and linears. But your goal should be to move as aggressively and as quickly as you possibly can. All right, delivering good hits. And if you're not capable of delivering effective hits, then you need to consider another tactic. You need to maybe consider moving and then shooting. You maybe need to consider moving to a place of safety or cover. But going slow out in the open at extended distances is very, very rarely, if ever, the right answer. So shooting on the move, dynamic principles, drive that gun hard, drive your movement hard.